Hello, dear student of Honors third year. Hopefully you are doing great and everything is going on according to right order. Welcome you again in my online class. We have been doing Absalom and Ahithophel by John Dryden. You are already acquainted with our writer, the author John Dryden. We discussed about the biography of our author in previous class and the nature of this writing. This is a political satire or a political allegory. This is one of the masterpieces of John Dryden, and Absalom and Ahithophel is certainly a great political satire. This work, in which Dryden's powers become fully known to the world, and which, as many think, he never surpassed, the spontaneous ease of expression, the rapid transitions, the great classicity and movement have never been excelled. As J.C. Collins declares, in one respect, this poem stands alone in literature. A party pamphlet dedicated to the hour, it is yet immortal. No poem in our language is so interpreted, with contemporary portraiture, with contemporary point. Yet no poem in our language has been more enjoyed by succeeding generations of readers. So we hear this, J.C. Collins rightly say so. So now, let's start our political allegory, Absalom and Ahithophel. Absalom and Ahithophel is one of Dryden's great political satires. Dryden's satire is a poem written in heroic couplets. That means this satire or this poem is written in heroic couplets. More about this in lecture 2 you will see what is heroic couplets. You should know the term. Heroic couplets signal to the reader that the poem deals with an epic theme. The poem is written on epic grandeur. They also indicate the writer's authority. Here the writer shows his mastery. In Absalom and Ahithophel, Dryden comments on the popish plot in 1678, an alleged plot by Catholics to kill the king and make England Catholic again. The exclusion crisis to keep Charles' Catholic brother James from inheriting the throne after Charles' death, and the Monmouth Rebellion in 1685, an attempt to put the king's illegitimate son James, Duke of Monmouth, on the throne. He frames these contemporary events in terms of biblical story of King David and his rebellious son Absalom. Biblical narratives would have been very familiar to contemporary audiences. So here we need to study this poem at two levels. It has biblical implications, biblical interpretations, biblical references, and on the other hand, it deals with the contemporary political crisis of England. So let's have a look on the important characters of the poem. Number 1, Saul. Saul was the first king of Israel. He defeated the Philistines in their first battle. He represents Oliver Cromwell, who ruled England after Charles' execution as Lord Protector. David, the king of Israel, representing Charles II of England. Here, King David is the one of the most important characters in this poem. Absalom, David's beloved son, who rebelled against him, stands for James, the Duke of Monmouth, who sided with the exclusionists against his father Charles II. Later, he was executed for treason. Annabel, another character. Annabel represents Monmouth's wife Anne. Amnon, Absalom's half-brother, Absalom had him killed for raping his sister. Achitophel, another major character, David's counselor, who betrayed him and encouraged Absalom to rebel against his father. He hanged himself when he saw that the rebellion would not succeed. He represents Anthony Ashley Cooper, the first Earl of Shaftesbury. Another character is Korah. Korah led a rebellion against Moses. This is a biblical character. He stands for Titus Vetts, who devised the popish plot and led the persecution of Catholics. Again, we have an important character, Barzillai. Barzillai lived beyond the Jordan River and sustained David during Absalom's rebellion. He stands for the Duke of Ormond, a patron of Dryden and one of the most devoted servants of Charles. He accompanied Charles II during his exile and served him faithfully during his misfortunes. He is an example of faithful character. Pharaoh represents Louis XIV of France. Zimri, two biblical figures represent Zimri, a murderer in Numbers and a usurping murderer in 1 Kings. He is an allegory of George Villiers, the second Duke of Buckingham. So you can see that the characters have dual meaning. That means it has a biblical reference. Another is its role in English politics. Again comes the character of Zadok. Zadok is David's friend who carried the Ark of Covenant into the wilderness. He was then sent back to Jerusalem for God's judgment. He represents William Sancroft, Archbishop of Canterbury. The second of Jerusalem represents the Bishop of London. Adriel was the son of Barzillai. Here he stands for John Sheffield, 3rd Earl of Mulgrave. He supported Dryden and opposed Monmouth. He was in favor of King David or King Charles II. Balaam, a prophet who ignored God, he represents Theophilus Hastings. Caleb, Moses' servant who entered the promised land with Joshua. He represents Arthur Capel, Earl of Essex. Nadab, another character, Aaron's eldest son. He was an idolater. Idolater means a person who worships an idol or idols. He represents William Lord Howard of Essex, a Puritan preacher. He was in support of the Puritans. Again, we have another character, Jonah. He represents Sir William Jones, the Attorney General. He prosecuted Catholics in the early stages of the Popish plot, became a member of Parliament, and supported the exclusion bill. Again, Shimi, this is an example of negative character or treacherous character. Shimi is a man who curses David. He represents Slingsby Bethel, a sheriff of London and Middlesex. So here we have and ample of characters. And Absalom and Ahithophel is certainly a great political satire. And it is important. The word political need not be overemphasized, for its permanent value lies in its satirical thrust and the vivid character portrayals. We see that the variety and vigor of sentiment, happy turns of language, elegance of praise, artful delineation of characters, all these qualities to such a height, it has raised this poetry to such a height as can scarcely be found in any other English composition. This is high praise indeed, but the poem quite deserves it. So, we see that all these characters, they form a portrait gallery or a picture gallery delineated by Dryden, and Dryden very artfully and masterfully delineated the characters. Inshallah, in the next class, we'll see the summary, we'll learn the summary of this poem. Before learning the summary, you all need to know very well about the characters. So, get study and understand the roles and the nature of the characters. Inshallah, we'll discuss the summary in our next class. Till then, thank you.